Hey everyone, I'm Trevor, and today we're at Disneyland to share with you 13 things that you need to stop doing at Disneyland. So let's get going. Today we're going to be sharing some efficiency and etiquette tips to help you have a good time at Disneyland, but also to let the other people around you have a magical experience on their trips. And our first tip is that you need to stop rope dropping the most popular attractions. Almost everybody in the entire park comes over here to Star Wars Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland and goes to Radiator Springs Racers and Cars Land at Disney California Adventure. And I mean almost everybody. This line instantly gets to an hour wait first thing in the morning. And if it breaks like it did this morning, that line is just standing around doing nothing. You waste the golden hour, which is the time, actually 2 golden hours, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. riding the lowest wait times in the park elsewhere. Rides that get 45 minutes to 60 minutes later in the day are 5 to 15 minutes in the morning, and you're spending a whole hour of that time at Rise of the Resistance. Now, about 80% of the time, Rise of the Resistance has a lower wait time at 9 a.m. than it does at 8 a.m. because every single person comes here first thing in the morning. But if you can wait until 9 a.m., it'll be a lower wait. And our next tip is probably our first request, and that is that you stop holding the line for other guests. It is considered cutting the line. You know what I mean? When you send one person into the line to hold your spot in line because the rest of the group is getting off another attraction or finishing up their meal, or maybe they're even doing something as simple as parking the stroller. You need to wait until all guests, all members of your party are there together and then get in line. Anything short of that is considered cutting the line, but it is extremely rude to the other guests around you. It's astounding to me that people don't think that this is a problem, but it is. The one exception to this rule is whenever somebody needs to leave the line to take a small little one to the toilet, because they don't always know when they need to go, and you've been waiting in a 45-minute long line, and all of a sudden they need to go to the toilet. Then you may re-enter the line after the child has gone to the toilet. But it is not appropriate to have 5 members of your party join one person who waited in line for the last 15 minutes just so they didn't have to. A further word on that, if you have somebody in your party who cannot stand in line for whatever reason, disability related for the most part, you can look into the Disability Access Service, or DAS for short, which is a system that Disneyland has in place, which is essentially like a free Genie Plus for those with disabilities that cannot stand in line, and it allows you to have a return time for those party members. You do have to apply for it, you do have to be approved for it, but you can check that out online for more information. The next tip is one that is very easy to forget, and that is if you need to stop, maybe you need to look at the app, figure out where you're going, order some food, please pull off to the side of the road. Do not stop in the middle of the path. You see how congested this can get, how busy the park can be. And I know that sometimes you're just not even thinking. It's just like, oh, suddenly, sorry, I have to do something. And so you stop right where you are, and the people behind you are going to run into you because of that. So it's just try to remember that if you need to stop and look at something, pull off to the side of the path like this. Pull up maybe to a fence, and then you can stop here and check out your phone for more information. Our next tip is to stop waiting in line for food. This is a common tip here on the channel. Behind me is Tiana's Palace, not open at the time of this filming, but it will be a little bit later on today. Mobile order, mobile order, mobile order. I've been saying that on the channel time and time again. Why wait in line to order food, especially at Tiana's Palace when it's 20-30 minutes, when you can place a mobile order? Now, tip, you can place mobile orders at 7 a.m. and popular places like Tiana's Palace, you're going to need to make that mobile order at 7 a.m. Look at the menu then, mobile order. For non-popular places, mobile order while you're standing in line for a ride. It'll save you time having to figure out what you want when you get to a restaurant and, then having to wait in that standby line. Now, Tiana's Palace is the one exception of this, because if you happen to not get a mobile order because you couldn't at 7 a.m. or whatever else, standby is really going to be your only option. But try as you can to not stand in line. Our next tip is to stop quoting your favorite attractions. Now, this is one that I have to constantly keep telling myself. Behind me is Haunted Mansion. It's my favorite ride to do this on, and I have to stop doing it. Is this haunted room actually stretching? Or is it your imagination? You know, I love to quote that ride, but think about it from the guest who has never been here before. They have never been on this ride before, and you're talking over the script in the ride. You're ruining that person's magical experience. And like I said, I have to tell myself to stop doing this all the time because I do quote rides. I love quotes in general, and we need to, as a group, decide to stop quoting rides while we're on them for the enjoyment of other guests. Let's walk and talk for the next tip, because there's no way I'm gonna get footage of anybody doing it, and that is to stop talking on your phone during the ride. Now, this is a problem that I've mostly had at Walt Disney World and not Disneyland, but I want you to be aware that it has happened to me on more than one occasion, and that is where I am trying to enjoy the ride and someone is making a business call on Jungle Cruise, or they're FaceTiming somebody at home while on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And while the FaceTiming might be innocent enough, the problem is, instead of just letting the person enjoy the ride on the phone, they were talking to the person. And because it was so noisy, they were going, "What? I can't hear you. What?" And it was really, really annoying for me while I was just trying to have fun on the ride. Next, I kindly ask that you stop swearing in the park. Did you know that Disneyland actually bans swear words on clothing? That if you were to walk into a park with a swear word on clothing, they will ask you to go change. Now, in times past, they would actually give you a credit to go get a different t-shirt in their store, but people started abusing that, so that no longer is in place. But this is a family park. There are lots of young children here, and some of us don't use that language at home, and we don't appreciate them hearing it while we're walking next to some guests, to the point where we'll usually just stop or go the other direction. And this is not just my request. I've seen this on different blogs online and things, specifically Disney Food Blog. I saw them mention this as well, so it's not just me. Please stop the swearing in the park. It's much appreciated. Next, I'd also ask that you kindly stop vaping in the park. Smoking is not allowed, neither is vaping. It is against the rules to do those at Disneyland. But the number of times that I see it still happen, people like sneak it in somehow, the security doesn't notice it, and then they're just doing it in the park. It's against the rules. Some of these things are suggestions. This one is a clear violation of the rules that you agree to when you come to Disneyland. Ah, Fantasyland, the land of the dark rides. There are several of them here at Disneyland where inside the attraction it is a dark ride. Now, they're called dark rides for a reason, and that's because they're dark inside. When you use flash photography, it ruins the effects of the dark ride. So I ask that you would stop using flash in the ride. Now, you can video record. I do it all the time. Just turn your phone settings all the way down, as dim as you possibly can, and instead of holding it out or up in the way of other guests' view, try to keep it closer to your chest. You can still be able to see, to point the camera, but just so that it's not in the way of others. I always try to be respectful when I film on attractions. I never use the flash. And if you are taking photos, just please use the best way to do it is actually to run a video and then push the camera button. That allows you to use your video camera's camera. Whenever you try to take a photo in the dark, it will try to get enough light, and therefore it's going to skitter or blur. If you want some crisp photos, use the camera setting on your phone and the video camera setting, and then take a still with that button. Sometimes I also use screen grabs because I can't get the exact moment that I want taking a picture, but I can find the exact moment in the replay of my video. It's a really great hack to get some great shots in good lighting without the blur here on the dark rides at Disneyland. Hello, Cabin. Now, while we've got Hook right here, it's a great time to tell you, oh, there he goes. It's a great time to tell you, though, to stop making your children do things that they don't want to do, especially when it comes to meeting characters. Let's go find somewhere quieter. Now, some children love characters. Adults love characters too, but some children love them and others not so much. It probably really depends on the character. I know that my youngest was deathly afraid of Chewbacca for the longest time. I mean, he's a big, hairy animal guy thing, of course. He's a Wookiee, I know what he is. I'm just saying from the perspective of a child. So if they don't want to go meet a character, they're crying, they're fussing, don't force them to do that because you want the photo. This is their trip too. Please help them have a good time. And this applies to rides as well. Again, my oldest is like a daredevil. He'll do anything. But my youngest, he hates Guardians of the Galaxy, Mission Breakout. There's a few other rides that he doesn't like as well. And to make a child go on a ride that they hate simply because you don't want to have to sit out with them or whatever, is not kind to them. Again, remember, this is their vacation too. You don't want to ruin it for them. They do have a handy thing called Rider Switch. That's where one adult sits out with a child that does not want to ride, and then whenever everybody else rides the ride and then they get off, you can then go ride the ride through the fast pass line, sometimes through the exit of the attraction, bypassing the entire line, and you can even take another guest with you so that you're not riding alone. How do you use Rider Switch? Go and ask the cast member at the front of the line, and they'll tell you what you need to do. Next is a bit of a niche request, but that is to stop taking up more room than you need to. Right now, I am at a park bench area, which is a pretty popular spot for watching the parades later on in the day. And you may want to put your bag next to you on the seat just because you don't want it on your lap or what have you, but that takes up the seat for somebody else. Now, if you're using that bag to save a spot for your husband who is standing in line getting some popcorn, totally okay. But if you're just putting it there because you want a place to put your bag, that's taking up a seat for somebody else. The same logic applies whenever you are at restaurants, like Rancho del Zocalo has a lot of group community seating. The same with the San Francisco Square over at Disney California. If you are taking up a chair with your backpack, you are taking up a chair that somebody else could be sitting at. So I kindly request that you put the backpack on the back of the chair, or maybe at your feet, maybe in a stroller, somewhere. Now, of course, if there are loads of seats available because it's earlier on in the day, not a big issue. We're talking about really only when it's super crowded and you can tell there are people walking around looking for a place to sit. Let's walk and talk again. Our next tip is to stop yelling at cast members when things don't go your way. Maybe they're telling you off for doing something that you shouldn't have been. I don't know the reasons why people yell at cast members, but I've seen it a couple of times, and yelling at a cast member is never the way to go. You might have heard the phrase that you'll catch more flies with honey. And all that simply means is that if you are nice and if you are kind, that you will actually are more likely to get your way. Now, I've gotten too close to the Disneyland van, so we can't actually walk any further than this, or it'll get really noisy. So we're gonna stop right here and continue our thought. Maybe you are going through the single rider line and you are asking the cast member if you can be in the same ride vehicle as your small 7-year-old son, because you don't want to be completely split up from him, but you went through the single rider, so you know you're not going to be sitting together. You just like to be in the same ride vehicle at least. If you're kind enough, they may actually send you through the standby line even after you've skipped the standby line and let you sit with him anyway. I've had this happen before. And it's really great when cast members do this like extra little bit of magic for people. But if you're rude about something, if you're yelling at the cast member because they told you, no, sir, you need to, you came through the single rider line, you're going to get split up. You start yelling, they are definitely not going to help you. If you have any other concerns about the way the park is operating or what have you, you're best going to guest relations or customer service, which is at the front of the park, and talking with them. They're going to be more equipped to handle your situation. The person who is just in charge of counting how many people go in the ride are not the people that are best suited to help you, so yelling at them isn't going to do anything for you either. You're best talking to the people that can actually help. And we're back at Tiana's Palace for our last tip. Now it's definitely earlier on in the morning. It just opened about 5 minutes ago, so there's a couple of people in there, but not a lot. And this is the whole reason that prompted this video in the first place, is that my family and I tried to come to Tiana's about 5 o'clock in the evening about a week ago. And we had mobile ordered our food, we'd had our food, and we were looking for a table. And I mean, they have quite a few tables in here, a lot of tables. I would say about a third to half of them were people just sitting at the table with no food. They were on their phone, whatever. They were holding the table because the line for standby actually went all the way around the side of the restaurant here. And so people were lined up in the standby line waiting to order their food, and their party was saving a table behind us. The problem is the line was like a 30-minute line at that point. And so you could be reserving a table for 30 minutes. Meanwhile, I could have sat in that table, ate my food, and left in the same, a lot faster than the 30 minutes that you reserved that whole table. So I'm asking you to please stop holding tables when you don't have food. If everybody would do this, there would be no problem. You look for a table when you have your food, you sit down, you eat, you leave. That's the quickest way to make sure that everybody has a chance to enjoy the restaurant and the atmosphere, because they have some live music that goes on. And we had to go to Rancho del Zocalo with our food, which is clear, well, not on the other side of the park, but it was quite a hike. And it was because other people were hogging tables and they weren't even using them. And it just happened to me again. I kid you not. I tried to get some lunch today from Royal Street Veranda, and all the tables there were full. But there were 2 tables where people were just sitting there with no food on their table. One lady saw me standing there with food in my hand and just stared at me like, you know, oh, I'm not moving. Are you kidding me? I got to this seat first. Tried to go to Tiana's Palace because there were lots of empty tables. You saw that in the video. But they actually had a cast member there preventing me. They said, sorry, sir, you can't sit here because this is for Tiana's Palace guests only. And so I guess that's changed since a week ago. So I'm glad that they're making progress towards that. But now I had to walk all the way over to Harbor Galley with completely full hands with my food just to find a place to sit, because people are taking seats when they do not have food. And it is very inconsiderate of guests who already have food. I hope you're not watching this video and thinking, wow, he's in a really bad mood today. Honestly, I'm not. I'm at Disneyland. I'm having a good time. The purpose of this video is just to help you be more aware of your surroundings, be more aware of the thoughts and the feelings of other people when you are here at Disneyland. I know you're trying to have a good time, but so are they. And if we all just think about, what we can do to make everybody else's trip a more enjoyable one, we'll also have a good time knowing that we contributed to their good time. At least that's the way I look at it. Here's a bonus one for you. Stop renting these really crappy strollers from Disney. They're hard plastic and they're not comfortable for your kids. They're also not very easy to push around. You're much better off buying a very cheap stroller to bring with you. You can bring strollers on planes for free. It doesn't cost you any extra money. I guarantee you it's cheaper to buy the cheap stroller than it is to rent at Disney, and the child will enjoy it much better. And that's it for our time here today at Disneyland. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you have questions or comments about the things that we brought up, the tips that we brought up in this video, go ahead and drop them in the comments below. Then click this video to keep watching. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again next time.